I have lots of jobs that I do in the district, but my main job is to, can you see me? You want me to keep still? Okay. I'm a walker. My main job is, of course, is to support this school district and welcome and their strategic plans and goals. I joined last year, so this is all new to me because I was retired for a couple of years. But I got everything down, and I'm pretty impressed with it. So our district embarked on a process which took several years, I think about 6 to be exact, and with MindStep, it's the name of a company. And this took them, they employed this company a couple of years ago to look at their district and see what they were doing well and where they can improve and having a new direction for our school district, because we do this every couple of years. After several years of learning and changing their mindset, listening to students, staff, and parents, and other advocates and stakeholders, and collecting a plethora of data, they created the strategic plan, which I'll give a copy to you in a minute. It's a living document, so it can be changed and rearranged and updated depending on what we need, and we adopted it at the end of the school year. Okay. As an educator, I know how important academic success is to having a better life for our students, for us, better opportunities. However, our data had shown that there were 2 more areas that we did not take care of, that we did not address, that we haven't addressed directly. And I believe many schools in the district and across the United States are doing the same. And the 2 areas that were addressed was social and emotional learning and civic responsibility. Come on in. I came out of retirement because I worked with Jennifer Guy, who's our superintendent, and I worked with Carter, James Carter Payne, at the high school when I was teaching years ago. And I found that Jennifer is an amazing, I'm glad she's not here because she would tell me not to say this, but I found Jennifer, our superintendent, to be an amazing, she's dedicated, she's committed, and she's a fearless leader, and she wants 100% of our students to be successful in whatever path they choose. And so that's going to be different paths now. Our educational family, our teachers, our staff, the custodians, everybody, they all are working really hard to make sure our students are successful, and sometimes you don't hear that, so I wanted to give a shout out to them. And the last reason why I joined the team last year and this year is because of the strategic goal. I believe that this is perfect for our students, it's perfect for our staff, and I believe our community could use this too, because we're getting new people in and we need to make sure we're all on the same page. I'm excited to help with the implementation of social and emotional learning and civic responsibilities. I'm passionate about these skills, and because I was taught them, and I'm sure most of you were taught them when you were coming up, and we're going to go over some of them in a little bit. But I learned from my family, from my teachers back in the day, and I taught my students when I taught about social emotional learning and the several components of it. And I think to me that makes a whole person. Without us having social emotional learning, it would be hard for most of us to succeed, and you'll hear about more of that in a minute. You can see the complete website of what we did. You can see the complete document on our website. And I'm going to have you give out one to everybody. And so this is kind of a good diagram, a good platform for people who haven't been in the school district, people who've been in the school district. Michelle has kind of pulled together. When you get this, you will see that the district has created a mantra that 100% of Los Alamos Public Schools, LAPS, will meet or exceed grade level expectations in 3 key areas: academic excellence, social and emotional well-being, and civic responsibility. I'm going to wait till you get a copy of it so you can see that. So what I think is real important, everyone has one now. What I think is real important here, which is not like we weren't doing it before, but we're emphasizing this more, is that our district wants to provide a safe and engaging learning community and environment that honors diversity and ensures that every student strive. And that's a big, lofty goal, but the district is committed to making sure that all students have a path of success, whichever way they go. Okay. We want to be accountable for every student, which means that they did some exercises before I got there to make sure that all kids were connected to somebody in the school, somebody at the home, somebody in the community, making sure they have somebody to talk to. To address the root causes, not worry about just fixing it or making things better, making sure that we know what's happening with students, making sure we know what's happening with staff, making sure we know where we need to do some help. So we want to go to the root causes. The other thing is meaningful engagement. We would like to make sure that our students are supporting what we're doing, our parents understand what we're doing, the community knows what we're doing, and we want to make sure that the kids are enjoying school and doing the best they can. Another lofty, big goal, but we're going to keep working on it. We also have processes of making sure that our elementary and middle school and high school students and staff have some input on all the things that we do. And we believe that it's important to have student voices, especially as they get older, between middle school and high school, so they can have some input. So at our board meetings, we have representatives from the high school, and sometimes we have someone who will talk from the middle school about what they're dealing with, what they need help with. So that's great. And then finally, we're filtering all decisions through the whole person, not just one person, academics, not just social emotional, not just the civic, but all of that. And I think that makes a big difference. When we talk about social and emotional learning, I know you all do it automatically. I know I do. But I wanted to break some things down so that you know exactly what our students are working with. So this way, you can help too. We're working with 5 components. Self-awareness. And last year, I brought a professor from Oregon into the school district for self-awareness. And what he did was he went to all of the schools. It was hard to get that done. He went to the elementaries, the middle school, and the high school. And he just did a lesson on making sure you know who you are, making sure you know your strengths. This is self-awareness, making sure you know what you're good at and what you're not good at, because you need to know that. We all know that. We know what we're good at and what we're not good at, and eventually we have to make sure that our students know so that they can do number 2, self-management. So if you know you are a sore loser when you play games, you might want to monitor some of that. If you know that you're not good with some strengths in math and whatever, we want students to be able to identify this is not what I'm good at, and this is what I need help. But the second part of social emotional is self-management, making sure that when you know who you are, you know what you can do, you know what you can't do, you can manage your emotions and your feelings so that you're not getting out of control, so that you're not angry with people, so that you know exactly that you know you can't do this subject, or you're not good with getting out and talking with friends, so you need some help. So we got to be able to make sure you manage who you are and you need some help. The third process is self-management. Social awareness. And that's some of the things that I'm doing, making sure that all students can respect everybody who's here, regardless of who they are, what they look like, whether it's sexual orientation or black, white, native, Asian, Pacific Islander, disabilities, body shaping, whatever it is, the bullying. We're trying to make sure that students understand that their words, their actions affect other people in the school. And that because we follow federal guidelines and state guidelines and New Mexico PED, Public Education Department guidelines, we are working on an anti-racist community. What does that look like? All it is stepping up and saying something, making sure that kids, no matter who they are, what they look like, what their class is, where they came from, making sure that they're not treated like they don't belong here. That's most important. Research is showing that a lot of times we can avoid a lot of hostility and a lot of issues if students know that they're wanted, they need it, they're respected, they're included, their voice is there, and that they can go to somebody to talk to. I think that's important because I think we need that too, all the time. The other part of this social and emotional learning is responsible decision making. So now you know who you are. You know how to manage some of these things. You have to make sure when we go back to, I'm going to go back to social awareness, we're trying to make sure that our students from K through 12 know that this is how you behave in church, this is how you behave at home, this is what you do with grandma, this is what you do at school, and this is what you do in sports. And most of our students get that, but sometimes it's a fine line because what you do at home, you can't do it to school. Decision making. We're working on all of this. Now, this is a living document. We're still working on it. We just adopted it, but we've been working and trying to make sure we put things in place so that students can learn from at least third grade to 12th about good decision making. So if I make this decision now, what's the consequences? What will happen? If it's a good decision, what's the consequences? If it's bad, did you know that? Did you get help? So we're working on that part too. That's part of social emotional. And the last part is 5 components, is relationship skills. Making sure that our kids know how to build strong, positive, good relationships. And that is something that we can see in town and all around that we got to make sure we do. So that's part of the social emotional learning that I used to do in my class and that I work on a regular basis when I'm here, when I have another job, when I have another job. You all know when you go different places, you have to do different things. So we want to make sure that our students know how to do that. So that's social emotional learning. The other little part of this is civic responsibility, and I believe most of us learned this when we were coming up in school. I know I did in New York City. Civic responsibility. So we want to make sure that students know how to, we want to make sure their actions and attitudes that they have towards our community and our society includes things like participating, volunteering. We used to have a lot of kids volunteer. We don't have a lot of kids volunteering for things anymore. You look around and see. We want them to, the seniors, we have Felicia Arthur's going to come out to talk to our seniors and maybe juniors about voting and the electorate. They were interested in that, so I'll help facilitate that part so they'll know. Respecting people's rights and beliefs and other people who are different, making sure that they realize that they're who they are and that's fine, but we have other people coming to the table. So we have to respect, and even though you don't like everybody, you don't have to be friends with everybody, but you surely can't disrespect and make people feel unwanted in our school district with federal and state money. That's the law. Compliance. This is part of civic responsibility. We want to make sure that our students remember we do have rules for the federal government, we do have rules for state and local, and we do have school rules. So we want them to be cognizant of rules and regulations because we need to do that. We were taught that before. I bet you all of you were taught that without knowing you were taught that. And another part of civic responsibility we're supporting is making sure that students can, and we have students in elementary already doing it, selecting a goal or a cause that they like. We have some students in the elementary who are doing environmental issues, and they're getting all types of data and trying to figure out what they do. I think, Michelle, you were part of that, or was your school part of that, I think, maybe? Was it? Everybody, because, I'm new, so she was here before. So, environment, civil rights, politics, economics, or just quality of life. So that's going to be part of civic responsibility. Another part of civic responsibility we're pushing would be to make sure, this would be pretty interesting for League of Women Voters. This is a lofty goal, but this is one of mine, is to make sure that we teach and train students how to find and verify information to make informed decisions about issues that affect our society and their world and their school. Okay. Another one is taxation. I'm looking at middle school, high school, taxation about the federal government and how and what our taxes do for all of us, how they support government programs. We just want them to know how our school and our legislative and all of those systems work together. So we'd like for them to do that. And finally, something that you'll get a kick out of, we also want to remind them about jury duty. We all try to get out of it, but we know it's necessary, we know we need them, and so that's part of this lofty plan that we have for civic responsibility. So, with all of that, the strategic goal I think the strategic goal embeds and expresses and explains the purpose of the following. It will take some time to get this program together, to get all of the tools. We got a lot of tools, we got a lot of people, we got a lot of lofty goals that we're doing, but it's going to take some time to implement. We have to train students and staff to kind of do some different things, add some more things, but nothing major. It's nothing more than what they've been doing. Most of our teachers and staff do this already, but we want to make sure our students do it and they know it. But we have a path. We have most of the tools, and we know this is the right way to go. I think if you look at other states in the United States, they're all pushing towards this social emotional learning. My personal feeling is that because of the COVID. In 2 years, they were by themselves, and other things were happening. They've lost some of the things that we've trained, some of the things that parents have trained, some of the things that the community has been supporting. So I think, personally, for me, that we just need to go back to some basic stuff. We are making sure that all students have someone they can connect to at school, whether it's a teacher, principal, assistant, counselor. We got psychologists, we got bus drivers, we got cafeterias, we got custodians, we got case managers, you name it. And we have it. And we have JJAB, and we have you and the community. So we want to make sure that all students, every student has someone to connect to if they need, besides their parents, of course, and grandparents. Because some of us, like me, don't have any family here. So I have to reach out and have friends to support me and to help me and to listen to me when I have issues. Okay? We want to make sure that all students, students feel valued, and we want to value their diversity. We don't want to say we don't acknowledge it. We want to value everybody's diversity regardless. We want them to be successful in school, so we want to give each student what they need, not what's equal, but what's equitable for them, what they need to be successful. And of course, we are also striving and making sure that all kids, all students, and all the schools are respecting people regardless of their color or their national origin or their language or their sex or their religion or their disability or their body shape, you name it. We're just trying to make sure we just respect each other for human beings. And that's part of my job that I like about doing that. We know that schools and families form authentic partnerships, so we want our schools, and we're working with parents to help us with all of these goals and to develop ways in which we can continuously keep our students engaged. But we also know that having parents and students and staff work together, it'll help with their social and emotional development. So we try to make sure parents are always involved all the time. We also know that community partners provide safe developmental settings for learning and development. And so I'm looking forward to having League of Women Voters come in, as you've been doing probably in high school, and making sure that they know what we do, how we do, and we're neutral and giving them knowledge. So we're going to be working on that too. And finally, if you have kiddos in the school, please help us on this journey. This is rough, this is hard, and most of the kids have this and know how to do this, but some kids need reminders. Some kids just need to know that these are our goals, and this is what everything we do is fed into it. Academic, SEL, social emotional learning, and civic responsibility. Our curriculums, we have new curriculums that were adopted the last couple of years, and they're supposed to be following all of this path. I wasn't with them at when they did all this stuff, but what I understand, everything feeds into this. So if we have our teachers teach the curriculum, that would help. And if you do not have kids in the school, now you know what we're working on. Now you know what we can do, and now you can help those students that you know that might need your help. Thank you for inviting me to share this plan, and I will be happy to take questions. I want to do one more thing. That is my presentation because, like I said, we're working on it regularly. I gave you a copy of the basics of this. What I like about this is about safe and engaging and respecting everybody. That makes a big deal for me. I taught in this district for 22 years. I taught with Michelle Ortiz, some other teachers, and I have to tell you honestly, not that my experience reflects everybody else, but I had teachers and educators, people who I worked with for about 20 years, and I always felt respected. I always felt like I was included. I always felt like if there was an issue, it wasn't about me and my color or what I offer, but my positions on how I felt. I have never felt, except one time, and everybody came to my defense, only one time in 22 years, some would, that I felt threatened in this community. I have not had that before. The students have been respectful in the last 22 years. Matter of fact, I did a presentation yesterday about trying to make sure students respect each other regardless of who they are and regardless of where they're from and regardless of what political position they are, because I go to the other side and say, you got to leave them alone too. Regardless of what they believe in, our goal is to make sure in our school, in school events, that our students are safe and they're respected. And like I told the students yesterday, you don't have to like me or like everybody. You just don't get to call them names. You just don't get to make them feel uncomfortable. And that goes for everybody. And so with that, my most important thing I like about this is that we are making sure that we try to hit every student where they're at. And for me, academic excellence and for the district doesn't mean 100%, does not mean an A. It means whatever your kid can do best and they're happy with, and hopefully you're happy with, that is good. That is their best. Because we all are not, rocket scientists. And we have new people coming into our district. I have to tell you, they're coming from different places, and they have different jobs, and they have different perspectives. And so we have to be prepared for our new students who are coming in here, for our students in the new era. There's a lot of language and vocabulary that use, and I'm trying to make sure I stay on top of it and try to make sure I help train the teachers to be on top of it and the administrators. So we're all working together. I'm just one wheel out of everybody. So the principals, I can tell you, they're busting their little butts to make sure they do what they need. The teachers are doing all that they can. And I got to tell you that admin staff at the district, I'm pretty impressed because we do lots of different things and nobody knows. And so we do it because of our students and we do it because of you. So thank you for letting me have this opportunity to talk to you. And I'm going to give you one more thing I think is important. You're going to laugh at me. We changed the hours. The hours of our school was changed because the PED, Public Education Department, said they wanted, bless you, they wanted more hours, and bless you again. I usually do 7, so I'm waiting for the other ones. Okay. So the PED, Public Education Department, we had this long, drawn-out discussion and debate, and it was pretty ugly for some of the teachers because we are blessed in Santa Fe, Espanola, Pojoaque, Albuquerque, because of the hours and the teachers and the staff that we have that are pretty much local and community, we can offer a lot of different things. But when you go out to a wagon wheel, when you go out to these little small communities where we have teachers driving 2 hours to get to there and 2 hours back, adding an extra hour is very difficult. But the PED decided to do that, and Los Alamos, as usual, we just picked up the charge and we went with it. So before I finish, I wanted to give you something else. This is a copy of the school hours, because I'm going to tell you, as being retired and coming back, don't be out if you don't have to. Am I right, Michelle? When the buses are in the school and the parents and teachers. So I gave you a copy of the new schedule, because while I love the school district and my kiddos, between the parents and the kids and the teachers and the bus drivers, I live on Barranca Road, and this year we changed the schedule. I'm not really an early riser, but I am because I'm in school. And I got up from Barranca the first day of school when the kids were there, and I left. I'm supposed to be at school at now 7:45. So I left about 7, and by the time I left late. I left about 8-ish, 8:15. I didn't get into the office over here. It took me about 40 minutes. Traffic was all the way backed up, and I thought, I feel like I'm in New York. So I'm just giving you the hours so you know, for those who are retired or those who work different hours, you know what this schedule looks like. And so, that's it. There is a better copy and a more intense, more inclusive copy of our strategic goal on our website. So you can look for that. And now, I'll try to take questions, if I can answer most of them. So that was a lot, but you have the basis of what we're trying to do, and I think it's pretty cool. So, yes.
When I was in school many years ago, I remember having a civics class that was required for everybody. And when my kids went through the Alamos school district, I don't remember that being worse or requirement. Is there a lot of what you talked about was covered in civics class? Is there any talk about?
So here's what I think was happening before. Michelle can double check, but I believe that a lot of the civic responsibilities were covered, and they still are covered in social studies. So social studies has a unit that covers civic responsibility and all these things. And of course, in different grade levels, they do different things. So, in elementary, you're not worried about voting, but we are doing it in the junior and the senior. And I don't know what happened from there because I was retired for like 6-7 years. So I just came back. So there are units in our curriculum that will cover that. You remember some of that, Michelle?
When I left,
Uh-huh.
it was integrated with the language arts curriculum.
Okay.
Social studies curriculum.
Gotcha.
So this is nice. You do the nonfiction reading and analysis and about civic ideas.
Mm-hmm. Mhm. And making sure we respect and know who they are and what they are, so that changes. So that's where I think it was in. However, after working with Mindset, the company, they wanted to pull it out because we did quite a few surveys with students and parents, and students and parents basically, and teachers, and so that was one of those areas that they felt like they needed more of, and as well as the social emotional. I think that's real important. Sometimes we have a lot of students who know who they are, but they're not managing who they are very well. So they're getting upset, and we're hearing different ugly stories. And we want to make sure they can calm down when they're driving. We've had lots of catastrophes there. We want to make sure they make good decisions. We know we have some catastrophes sometimes in our district. They need to make some good decisions. They need to make sure they can have somebody to talk about with those decisions and have somebody who can help them. If it's not parents, or if it's not, a certain age group, they don't want to hear from the parents or the grandparents, but we got to make sure that they have people on site that they can identify with and talk to. So that's one of the things. Yes?
I think this is fabulous, okay? And I think I personally could benefit from the social emotional well-being. But I have two questions for you. How do you, on the social emotional well-being, this is a two-part question, how do you measure some of this stuff, if your program is successful?
Okay.
And then the other one is, some things, of course, make the paper, and so I'm sort of aware of some situations of the last few years. And it seems like a mid-school is a particular minefield for just what you're saying. Kids are experimenting and puberty's going crazy. And how do you kind of
Okay.
Because some knothead does something stupid, kind of seems to me that it reflects being 13 years old, and not a reflection on the school or the community or the family. It's just part of human, it seems like our society, human nature. So how do you kind of account for that?
Okay, so I got you. So as far as accountability and how we're going to do that, on our website, I didn't want to spend too much time, and this is kind of pretty detailed. On our website, we have accountabilities and strategic actions that we can do. So for us academics, we're going to be working with teachers. We're going to make sure the students have what they have. We're going to make sure we're testing and evaluating and see what the kids need. When it comes to the social emotional, we have something called CASEL framework, which I can't share this because I only got copyright to show it to you, but you can look at it. There's a framework of CASEL for older students, and it gives teachers and staff and students measurable goals that you can see that says that if you can do this, you're doing well, all right? So it's on our website. For social emotion, for example, we have a CASEL framework for the older students over 8th grade, and then we have K-8, we have something called Second Step. So Second Step is a curriculum that we have that we've adopted, and we're hoping that teachers, counselors, if I need to go in and help, we will share those, and we'll know the success by how they're behaving, decisions they're making, what are they doing, and how the parents say it's working for us. So we're going to be looking at that. We have surveys, we have a little audit we're going to do. We'll have students kind of evaluate themselves and say, how is the school doing? Are you feeling better with that? When it comes to civic, there's some other actionable items that we can measure. And so on the website, you'll see that. And I didn't want to give this to you because there's a lot. For the civic, we want to look at disciplinary. For example, we have also adopted MLSS. And I won't go into this, but it's another type of kinder, gentler way to discipline students without it being so punitive. We also have we have restorative justice group for elementary and high school so that they can kind of walk through how you can be accountable and still be kind. We can make sure that you have consequences, but we're not blaming you for everything, and we know that it takes time to learn new things. So we have some of that accountability. We have JJAB that we work with and some other organizations in our community we work with. So we will be judging it based on how many incidences, how people are feeling, what's the survey saying, how's the parents saying, what's happening in our schools, and it's going to take time. we've been doing this for a long time. It's not new. It's just that we're just kind of making a real commitment, and we wanted to make sure. That's why I thought it would be great to talk to some of you so you'll know exactly what we're doing and why. Because we're seeing that sometimes, as you said, students make silly choices and decisions, and we all make mistakes, but we also have to make sure that they understand that there are consequences depending on your age. And if we're trying to educate you about what things are the best paths and how you can stay out of some of the trouble, when they make those decisions, we also have to have a way for consequences. And so we make sure we talk to parents, and we make sure Jennifer's amazing, as well as the principals, because they know all the parents. So they can get on the phone and talk to parents and make sure that happens. I know that the principals, sometimes they go out and they help the teachers do whatever they need. Am I right? Sometimes they do all of that stuff. So everybody's hands on deck. So hopefully that answered the first part. So there's other measurable things here you can look for. And then you're right that sometimes things will happen. And people make these accusations that we're all prejudiced, we're all bad, we're all this or that. But I am one of those troopers who will go to the schools and remind them about our international community. To me, last year I went into 55 classes, and I said, what's going on with the words and the slangs and the knockdowns, the put downs, the girls, the guys, it's class, it's age, it's money, it's sex, it's body shapes, it's everything. And we're just going to make sure that our teachers are anti-racist, which means back in the day when I was teaching, you remember this, we all came out in the hallway to make sure that we can see our kiddos. And sometimes when teachers are not in the hallways and IAs and EAs and whatever, sometimes things happen. So we're making sure, and sometimes, I know when I taught here, sometimes some teachers would say, oh, that's not important. Oh, the boys always do that. And the girls always do that. And then they walk away. We don't want them to walk away anymore. We want them to deal with it so that we'll have a healthy school district. We want to make sure that we don't want to pick on people, but if somebody's picking on you and they're bullying you and you're not comfortable, then that's not a good environment. That's some of the issues that we see all the time when there's catastrophes. So I join to make sure that I can help them not have these catastrophes and make sure that everybody does have a voice, they have a place, and we're not perfect, but we need to make sure that we can work together. And like I said, my biggest thing is you don't have to like me. You don't have to be friends with me. You don't like my religion. You don't have to like anything. But what you can't do is you can't mistreat and make me feel like crap in a federal state institution. It's against the law. And I'll give you a copy of that too. Title VI. We've been working on it for 60 years. And I'm older than that. And so I remember all of this, and we're still working on it. So we want to make sure everybody feels comfortable and respected, but it doesn't have to be a kumbaya moment every day. Okay? So does that answer your questions? Cool. Anything else? Yes.
Did you have something to say about voter registration at the high school?
Oh, yeah.
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday, the county clerk's office and I were at the voter registration at the high school. And it's wonderful. I love voter registration at the high school. And we lucked out on Tuesday because we had 3 student interns, and one of them hunted people down whom she knew and forced them to come to the table and register. 10 registrants. And people were pretty excited about registering. And we had 14-year-olds trying to register.
Yes. We've been working on those goals. Yes.
And it was fun, and the students were kind to one another.
Yes.
Sometimes they're out there shooting each other.
No. Yeah.
This is a good game.
Yes.
I went to the high school, and I really like the high school.
Yes. I have another role, which I won't talk about outside of my school. And so a lot of my students who knew me said, Mr. Determan, will you talk about da-da-da-da-da? And I said, you know what? I am on one side, so I'll tell you what. I'm going to get my buddy. I'm going to get somebody from League of Women Voters. So we talked about this in May. When I talked to the students about this SEL and the civic responsibility, the first thing that the juniors said, which were going to be seniors, can we get somebody in to help us register? I said, we could do that. We're just not talking about anything, but we can do registration and that. And then you have to be socially inclined to read the data, which I just told you about. Read, be informed. Don't just take stuff from online. We want people to be respectful online and offline, and don't just take what you see, but make sure you research and make your decisions. So I was part of pushing that for the high school students, and they wanted me to do it, and I deferred to y'all because I'm glad that you were kind of neutral. So thanks for that. They're excited. I went to talk to them, seniors and juniors, yesterday about some stuff that I needed to talk about, and they said that they really appreciated League of Women Voters, and you're phenomenal. So I'm glad you did that, and I'm glad you keep doing that. So that's important.
And Felicia, are you going to go talk to the class?
Yes.
About the electoral college
Yes.
on October 23rd?
Yes, yes. So let me tell you what happened after that. So when we started talking last year, I was talking to the high school students because I have one more grade level that I taught from Barranca. I taught in 4th grade a gazillion years ago, and the last couple of years, they all been knowing me. So that's helped me to be, in everybody's face. I'm like, we know her, she's good. Last school year, they wanted to make sure we had election information, and I'm glad you all did that. And then I go to a high school all the time in middle school trying to make sure that we're doing this, even though we're still working on training everybody, but I know how to do that, and most of the teachers do too. They asked about the electoral college and yada, yada, yada. And I shared with some of the seniors what I knew, and then I said, this sounds like this could be a whole topic. So I said, maybe I'll get somebody next school year. So they scheduled, we got together last week, and I asked Felicia, would she do that? And so if anybody else, if they want some more information, I just love having you here, League of Women Voters, because you can do this, neutral and give them all the information. So that's going to be phenomenal. So I just think that we're on the right path. Like I said, we're still working on this. It's, the kids know about it, and they know most of it, but we're going to keep working on it. So that's good.
You touched on something, and you may not have a lot of information, but I just retired from the lab last year, and the last 3 years or so before that, I was working from home because of COVID. But I've seen, right at the start of that was when the lab started their rapid hiring. And it's got some crazy statistic, I can't remember, but some large portion of the lab has worked there 5 years or less. There are a lot of new people. And I've been concerned about how it changes the character of the community and, of course, then the schools. You alluded to some of that. What are we seeing? Because I do feel like there's a bit of a change.
Well, as I talked to the students before, we already had an international lab. People that you'll know from Europe, Africa, Pueblos, African, Europe, Africa, different places, Africa, Europe, Africa, Pacific Islanders, all the Pueblos, and every place else. What I'm seeing, which is what you heard sometimes in the paper, is that we're having a lot of students from different states with different perspectives. We're having, what I see is a lot of maybe a lot of more, how would I say? I think we're not getting a lot of because of the nature of the jobs, these people are just blue-collar workers. They're everyday workers. They are all colors, all cultures, all religions, and they just have a different perspective. I think that one of the things that I've noticed, and one of the things that Jennifer has appreciated me doing, is making sure that I do exactly what you're saying. Make sure the teachers know that our community is changing a little bit. It's not bad. It's just more inclusive. It's going to be inclusive. You're going to see a lot more black folks. We have a lot of more Latino and Hispanic folks coming up and living. We got these apartment buildings for that. We have a lot of, Anglo-white folks who are different levels, you know what I mean? They just are very simple and plain. A lot of them are working, 2 families are working and leaving kids home by themselves. So we have to look at that and make sure we have places and things for them to do. And I think that we have a lot of Pueblos. I can tell you right now, I don't know where they're at because I'm working on it, but I can tell you that our district registrar that I'm close with and I deal with says that we have at least 90 self-identified black families or students here in our school district. They're all over. We have at least 100, and that's what my dad is saying. Don't know if this is accurate, but I just looked at it before I left. We have 120 Native, indigenous students in our district, and then everybody else. You know what I mean? We have a lot of people from South America here, and a lot of people from Africa and stuff from here. So it's just going to be a difference. And I know that one of the biggest things we're also trying to do is hire more teachers of diversity. Kind of hard up here, you know what I mean? We have a lot of different people at the lab, but then they work at the lab. And I will tell you that we have a lot of teachers here, and because, teachers' salary is still not where it should be, or principals, a lot of teachers leave. We've had about 5 or 6, I know for a fact, you may know some of them, they went to the lab. And so we just kind of struggle to make sure that we have representation for everybody, And so I just feel like we just need to be inclusive. We need to know that everybody's not a rocket scientist or engineer or attorney or scientist. They're very, very everyday people like my mom and dad were. My mom and dad wasn't educated past high school. So we have some of that. So we're going to have a different framework, and that's all making sure that's why we want to make sure that everybody is included and make sure that we realize that our demographics may be changing a little bit, but it's for the good, I would say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking so much.
I know you weren't, but I'm just saying, making
values of the science and education versus, like you said, more blue collar moving in, and that's what I was thinking.
And that's another thing that I feel like we should be working on, and I think there's a couple of teachers are working on that, vocational training. I think we should be bringing back our vocational training for high school students, so everybody doesn't need to be in college. When I got here, about 22 years ago, we had cooking, and we had shop, remember, and we had all these, Carolyn was in the middle school, I'm a middle school teacher by trade, and we had all these things, and then I also remember everybody saying, we got to make sure everybody's ready for college. So then we stopped doing some of that, and we changed some of those classes, and I got to tell you personally, and I think collectively, we realized that wasn't a good idea. Because we need people to do our cars and to be in the supermarkets, and we need to make sure we pay them decently. We need somebody to take care of a car, supermarket, and all the other jobs that doesn't need a PhD or a master's. We need them to be here too. And we also need to respect them, and we also need to make sure they have insurance and health insurance so that they don't make us sick and that they're okay and they're healthy. So, and that's something that we're looking at maybe our county and all of you to figure out how we can do this. Because, we are a different community too. That's another piece of this that I made sure that I go around just talk about. I'm from New York City. Most of you are from other places. And when you're in a different city or a bigger city, you can do different things. So we are also having to educate some of the new parents saying, I know that sounds good, but if we go any further, we're off the cliff, okay? So we have plateaus and we have mesas, and that's what we got. So we also, our school district and the county are trying to work together to try to make sure that we have housing for people too. So with new people coming in and not having the salaries that some of us had at the lab, so deserved, based on your education and what you do, we also got to make sure that we have enough space and place and a good place for those people who are a little different and don't want all of that or don't have all of that, So it's a balancing act to make sure that we make parents happy if they want the AP class, and we want to make sure that the other parents are happy by just making sure they can do the basic stuff. And that's henceforth why the biggest goal here, if you look at this, she said 100%. And I remember going someplace with Jennifer last year, and as a teacher, somebody said to her, a parent said, 100%, that's impossible. And somebody said, that is just too lofty. And then I went behind them and I said to this parent, I said, so, who would you like me to leave behind? Would you like me to leave the girls, the boys, the black, the Spanish, Asian, Native, Asian, the mix? Who would you want me to leave behind? And so then they backed off and said, so I said, the 100% means not that we're perfect, not that we can't do it, but it means that we're going to try to hit everybody, because if you say, well, I would like to have 80% of the kids do well, that means that, I had to tell somebody this because the parent just backed off and she said, I'm so sorry. I said, no, I just want you to realize, because Jennifer, I've been with Jennifer several times, and I've been in the background, and I've heard people say this, and I started developing a thought, like, well, wait a minute. If we say 70%, you already left 30% behind. Who should that be? Who will that be? And so when I said this to this parent, Jennifer looked at me, she said, I like that answer. I said, so we want to try to make sure 100% of all the kids have somebody they can talk to, somebody that they can help with schoolwork or whatever. We have a plethora of, if I were to give you all the programs we have in Los Alamos, it's just daunting. I made a list of it because I was new, and I was like, do we have all of these? Yeah, we do. So we had programs that we had for students with disabilities, because now we don't want to say special ed students. That's negative. We want to say students with a disability. Make sure we are valuing the student who's different, not the differences, and they're just a person. So we want to do that. However, what we found out is that if we say 100%, that means that teachers have to help kids the best they can. Talk to them at least one, help them. Everybody has to be helped. And it was very difficult for Jennifer and the staff before I got there to say 60, 70%. There was a lady who helped them with this process, Robin Jackson. I met her just in passing because I'm new, and she said, what you said about the 100% is right. If we say 80%, that means you're assuming that 20% won't do well. That means we're not even going to look at them. That means that we already know that we're not going to, so we don't want to do that. So that's why we came up with, we're going to do 100%. We don't care if it sounds over lofty. We want to make sure that all kids are included, and that's part of it. Okay, so that's how we did that. Make sense? Okay, so any more questions? Oh, goody. I got one. Oh, I like that. What you got?
Okay, so I retired 25 years ago, so this is...
We appreciate you still.
Okay, but so this is a voice from the past. So I felt, in comparison to what you're talking about, I felt as if the schools were really emphasizing your rank, AP down, and there was a sense of, authority more up there and denigration if you weren't. And maybe a bit more emphasis on punishment rather than restorative justice, which I just think is one of the best inventions of the last, I don't know how many years, for me, 10 years maybe. But I think that the main thing is to change the atmosphere. And that's why I like every word that you're saying, because it's all geared towards changing the atmosphere from punishment to restorative. And I think changing the atmosphere of the schools so that kids want to go and they're not scared. What do they even say to me? It happens to teachers who feel like, well, they're not doing well, so I don't need to help them, just what you were talking about. So thank you to the school system for putting this emphasis on. I mean, I look at it and I think, well, how am I going to teach my class if there's all this going on? But really, this is the foundation
It's just,
for people. If you do all this, it'll be easier to learn. So, hey, that was a speech, not a question.
No, that's okay.
Except to say, keep it up, and how are you going to keep it up?
So you're absolutely right. When I got here 22 years ago, I remember being in the middle school, and I had some little issues because I wanted to make sure that everybody was included. And everybody was like, no, we're doing this, and we got to do this level. And I was like, okay, but you don't leave some people aside. So I agree with you that we have high standards, and we still do. However, we also realize now, especially after COVID, especially after kids told us that all of them don't want to do all of that. All of them don't have to be judged by if you're not an AP student and you're not in the classroom, or you don't have a house, or you don't live up here. So part of what came out of this strategic plan, I think it took about 6 years, but this lady and this company came and they asked teachers, they asked parents, they asked the community, they asked the students. And the students pretty much said what you said, that, we don't feel valued if we're not doing AP. We don't feel valued if we don't live up here. We don't feel valued if we're not white and middle class or whatever. And we were like, so is that what you got from this? It was. And so, and yep, and I don't know how much is on the webpage, but what happened was, the powers that be and all the staff and all the stakeholders looked and read some of that and said, so what can we do different to make sure that we don't I don't want to disengage those people who want AP. My husband's one of them. He's a perpetual student, you know what I mean? He's like a genius and we don't know. That's fine. And then we have other people like in the middle like me, that's fine. And then we have other people who just want to do other stuff. And so what happened with this process is that came out too. Even though I don't think the district meant that, because we just have, a lot of people want to do education up here. That's what we are here. Sorry, that's how we roll. But we also realize that we were leaving some people out, and some students felt like they were left out, even when the teachers tried not to. So the purpose of that whole process was to make sure the teachers, the students, the parents said, okay, so we have to make sure that they're valued for what they want, but we got to make sure the other people are valued too, and that's the hard part, is making sure we do that change with the teachers and with the staff and with the parents. Because we have other parents come up here and say, well, how come they're not doing it? Well, you know, this is what they wanted. This is what they can do, and this is what we're happy to accommodate them with. So we're trying to change the parents too. And we will be talking about grades eventually, trying to change some of that, and just the flavor. So the first thing, real quick, first thing is we have to do the climate, because when we say stuff, it doesn't work unless you have the climate, and that's part of what I do, try to go around and make sure they know that we're open to everybody.
I had this is a follow-up. A few years back, I thought the district implemented a graduation requirement that every single student had to take an AP level class or a college credit class. Did they do away with that?
I don't know, but I can tell you now, based on this, that's not going to be something that everybody wants to do. You know what I mean? I was not in any AP classes. I thought I was smart, but I didn't do any. That you might have had that right because I'm new, but I can tell you now that we're trying to make sure kids have all the. I don't think it is, but I'll double check. But I wouldn't think it is, because we know that we have students in the AP classes, but I have heard the same thing, that some of the kids feel bad that they can't make it, or they can't do it, or they can't take it. So I believe I think we're phasing that out, but I'll double check. Yes.
I had a question. I think this is all wonderful. We moved here 50 years ago at Golden Eagle, so I went through the school too, and they did really well. I can't complain, but I think this is needed because it's a different climate now.
It sure is.
My question is, we were a dual career family with childcare. And I know that the lab is finally set up this tiny little play school and said, oh, look what we've done. But the whole business of after school, you know, unless you get involved in a million things, it's a real problem. And I'm wondering, is the school thinking about that, or are they leaving it up to parents still? I know a lot of kids are in the libraries after school. I know there are some live programs, but it's really not I think thought of in terms of the school district.
So let me answer one part, because somebody, I think he's gone now. Somebody gave me an answer to that. Officially, legally, that international daycare is not from the lab. It was from California, University of California. They did it. Because, you know, they will tell you that they're in, and it's true, they're in research and development. They don't do that. However, the district and the county have been thinking for many years of trying to develop some land that could be utilized for different things. In regards to this child care, it's a trip. I don't think we have any answers for it, because here's one of the issues I can tell you. We sometimes have issues and problems staffing all of our schools with EAs and teachers, and now you're talking about getting babysitters and child care. So we got to figure out how, and here's part of the issue for me, I think, personally, not from the school, we got to have some place for them to live so they can be up here and not run back and forth, or someplace down there. I can tell you that I've looked at houses because a friend of mine's wanted one. Espanola and Pojoaque, their houses, go look at the houses. The houses are $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 too. So we have to be able to find someone who can partner with us and help us with this. And we're also going to have somebody staff it. I mean, I know Teresa at the county had the little school, yes, Teresa called. And, you know, there were times when trying to get somebody to staff and take care of that, that's an issue. But I do think that child care is an issue. That space is not enough, and I don't know what the answer is. When we changed the hours, that was the biggest concern that parents talked about at the board, like, who's going to take care of my kids? Because right now you have, we had a different schedule so that the high school teachers, students could take care of the junior, middle school kids and elementary kids, but now the high school starts at 8:30. They're the latest. I mean, almost the latest. So the elementary starts at 8:10, and they get out at 3:50. So the elementary gets out the earliest, and so now we got a problem with somebody taking care of the elementary kids. And I don't know what parents did. I know Jennifer and the district, all of us was kind of concerned, but we were mandated to do more hours. And we do know that we We do know that research says that the high school students should be later. Although I was in high school yesterday and they were like, oh, I hate this schedule. I'm always tired. And I'm like, really? Because research says you should be going later and you all can hang out later because you know they're up all times of night. You know that. But as far as childcare, I think it's still an issue. And I don't think we have any ways of helping. I mean, I think we have facilities, but then we need the people. And so if anybody has some answers for that, that would be great. Because we do need childcare, and so I don't know what teachers are doing right now besides helping each other. And sometimes some of the kids got to come to the school after hours. The other thing is we don't have elementary early release on Wednesdays. And so what the district and the union and everybody decided is to have an hour every day extra for the teachers to get together and to do their planning. So in the past, the elementaries had 12 o'clock, they were off. 12, 1, 2, 3, they had like 3 hours, 3.5 hours once a week. Now we've given them 5 hours. They have an hour every day after school to try to get together and do stuff. If that means they have to leave, I don't know, I don't want to say that. But if they have to do whatever they have to do, they have time for planning and for things like that. And you know what, since I have grandkids in college and in high school, I don't know what they do, but I know that is an issue.
One more question.
Sure.
So I have 2 kids, one's in 6th grade, one's in 9th grade. They both come to school the whole time here in Los Alamos, both are going to Aspen. But I have noticed that while my son, my older kid, he did really well through the school system here. He started going off, great for him. But for my daughter, my 6th grader, it seems like she doesn't fit into that lane, and so a lot of the things that she does enjoy aren't available or provided by the school.
Such as, give me some.
Like she did the after school D&D club last year at Aspen. This year they don't have it because the teacher went to another school or something.
What's the D&D? Tell us what.
Dragons.
Oh, okay. I wasn't part of that crave.
Creative storytelling kind of thing with, it's a great way to sort of do problem solving and teamwork and all these valuable skills when they were doing it after school, and that program went away. Also, she wanted to be an Osceola's Mind this year, and the Osceola's Mind filled up. There wasn't availability for her, and we constantly hear that schools struggle to get kids engaged, and then like the things that engage them, we don't invest in. So kind of following up with what you said about measuring your performance, how do you then take that and sort of following up with the daycare stuff how do you improve responsiveness?
One of the things I would say, don't take this personal, so we need you, we need other people to help with these programs because teachers are doing a plethora of stuff. They're doing a lot of stuff. And the things that we're incorporating them, it's not anything added. It's just part of their teaching. They will do civic responsibility. They will do SEL. However, we do have, I got to tell you, after COVID and after just the times that the kids been out and the teachers been trying to do a lot of stuff, they've been overwhelmed too. There's a lot of things that they need to cover, a lot of things they're trying to get done, and a lot of them are just feeling overwhelmed and not appreciated too. So what we could do is, if any of you have extra spare time, if you want to help with an organization or a club or something's not there, we can help do that. We just started this new system, so I know we lost some things. We know that. It was nothing we could do because it wasn't our call. It was PED said you will do another hour, and this was the best way we can do it. Besides having kids come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and so I apologize for that, and I totally agree that I don't know all the clubs in the schools, but I feel like if these clubs are of importance, we should have the kids. This is a civic responsibility. We should have the kids kind of champion for those clubs, because here's something else we don't do. I'll tell you something else we don't do. I learned. We don't do clubs to students. So if a student wants a club, they got to let us know. We're not going to create clubs and hope they'll come. We want them to want to do it, and then we can help build it. So if that's something that's important to her, just because we don't have it doesn't mean that people won't help. We just need to know about the need. Does that make sense? So if the person who was doing some of this is gone, then maybe you, your daughter, some other kiddos who like that, see if they can get some momentum going, and then maybe we can find somebody to help us do that. That's one of those things that we have no control over because we kind of are secluded areas. So, we were close to Santa Fe, we'd have more, in Pojoaque and Espanola, but we just have our community. So we have to do it within ourselves. Let's see if we can get somebody to do it,
Do you think there's any strategies for reducing friction in community engagement? Like, I can give you another example. I coach rugby, and the rugby club doesn't want to be under LAPS, the rugby with athletics and things like that. So, are there any community conversations about what are the biggest barriers?
So what I would say, are you talking about elementary, middle school, or high school? So I would say that I would talk to, we have some new folks in the high school. We lost a couple of our principals and assistants. They go in different places. They've been teaching for a while. So I would suggest that either you call high school coaches, Guy Myers, and see what he knows about, because we have lots of coaches in the high school. We have middle school, we have elementary. So I would start with Guy Myers at the high school, tell him I told him to call and see. So well, you get mad at me and him, and see whether we could do something like that. I don't know what the requirements are. I know that if it's under Los Alamos Public Schools, there are rules and regulations. So if you take it out from there, then that's fine too, but then it's not part of what we do. So I would start with the high school coach and see where he tells you to go. Or you take my card and I'll check with Jennifer and see where you should do it. But we're trying to make sure that everybody gets what they need. Sometimes we can't, because what I find, because I'm from a bigger city, is that we just have limited people power. You know what I mean? We have y'all, all of our retirees. You have a lot that you can offer, but if you're busy or doing other stuff, then all we got is the teachers and people like me who came back to help do that. And I don't think that's a bad idea. I just think that we just need some people to help do that. So if your daughter's really into that and some friends, have her start working on some of that, and then she can talk to some of her teachers and principals, and we'll see where it goes. Because that's how we do stuff. If there's a need and somebody wants to do something, then we just get busy and try to make it happen. Does that make sense? That's a start.
Thank you, Andrea.